Hello and welcome to this introduction to OverDRIVE session. I think we're just starting just about on time, which is good. So this is a session to introduce you to OverDRIVE if you haven't seen it before. And there are one or two things which are constantly changing with the product, so it's also good as a review session. We'll also have a sneak preview of our brand new page builder feature within OverDRIVE, so that's something to look forward to. So my name is Sean Power and I'm from Refractive, and we're the creators and owners of the OverDRIVE product. The session today will last around 30 minutes, and the majority of that time will be spent in the demonstration because we want to give you as much of a flavour of the product as we possibly can. As I say, we'll spend most of the time on the demonstration. We'll also make a recording of the session available afterwards, and that way you can either replay the session or share it with your colleagues if necessary. If you've got any questions that you want to ask during the session, then please feel free to put them into the chat box. I see Callum's found that already, which is good. So put them into the chat box. We'll try to answer them as we go through the session if we have time. If not, we'll get to them after the session is finished. So as I said, this is the agenda for today. We've got a few slides just to introduce the product, what OverDRIVE can do, what it is, and some uses, etc. And then, as I said, most of the time will be spent actually showing you the product in action. We'll be creating the site. We'll be showing you a completed site as well, just so you can get an idea of what OverDRIVE can do. We'll also take some time to look at some organizations who are currently using OverDRIVE, and perhaps more importantly, look at exactly what they're using OverDRIVE for. And hopefully this can spark some interest from your side and some ideas as to what you can do and how you can use OverDRIVE to your advantage. And then finally, we'll look at possible next steps in your investigation of OverDRIVE for your organization. And as I said, get to any questions that have been raised throughout the session. So a quick look at an overview of OverDRIVE, what it is and how it works, etc. So it's designed primarily for organizations who are using G Suite. And this is because it's so deeply integrated with G Suite, and it pulls data from across your G Suite services. So Drive, documents, content, groups, etc., and pulls them into one central location. And with OverDRIVE, you can create some great looking web pages, portals, work sites, etc., directly from this G Suite data. And this is without specialist development or web skills, etc. And then we can take it to the next stage and actually pulling data from outside G Suite as well. So OverDRIVE can become your central source of information, regardless of whether that sits within G Suite or outside that G Suite environment. And you see most of this as we go through the demonstration. So see how it works, how sites are created and what you can do with them, etc. And all this means is that your staff will have easy online access to the resources and information that they need at the point when they need it. And one of the other advantages that you get with OverDRIVE is that every site is automatically mobile friendly. So they can access that site on any device that they want from any location, which gives you a great deal of flexibility in terms of how how your users create and use the sites that they have. If we look at the potential uses for OverDRIVE, these really come in two flavors. It's kind of short-term sites and long-term sites. So short-term sites may be event sites, for instance. I've got an event running in a couple of weeks. I want to have a site which holds an agenda, maybe the presentations, attendee lists, feedback forms, all that kind of thing. And I can create that site very quickly, use it for a short period of time until the event is over, and then I can discard that site. But also I can have long-term sites in use with OverDRIVE. So maybe that's my intranet or a client portal or an education portal for students or parents, etc. And one of the advantages that you get with OverDRIVE is that once you are licensed, then you can create as many sites as you wish. And this is a really good bonus because it means that I've got a particular site that I want to use OverDRIVE for, and I can do that. I can create it very quickly. I can manage that site, but I can also have the overall organizational site, which I can access, such as my intranet and extranet, etc. So that's another bonus. I can create as many sites as I wish for each user. Talk a little bit about security. So OverDRIVE is built on top of Google Cloud Platform, and that's the same platform that the Google Search runs on, and also Google Maps and all the G Suite platform runs on the same GCP platform. Also, some external applications which you may have heard about, such as Spotify, Evernote, Shazam, etc., all run on this same platform. What this means to us is that we can concentrate on the functionality within the product rather than having to look after the security. So as long as we tie in with Google and their security parameters, then we can make sure that we can make OverDRIVE as functionally rich as possible. And that's the advantage of all our customers. Okay, so quick look at some of the key benefits, just really as a little bit of a summary. OverDRIVE, it really does a fantastic job of making everything simple in terms of the creating site and using the site and using the content on the site. But it also provides the site creators with the ability to do some really quite flexible and advanced features and functions of the site. Clearly, data security and integrity is key, and this is managed through the very tight integration with Google Drive and other Google services. So if we use data that's held within your G Suite account, that data continues to reside within G Suite. We don't pull it into OverDRIVE, we just create a window onto that data. And this helps with the security and data credentials, etc. And again, the last point on there about speed of implementation is literally easy to create a site in minutes. So we can take data which we have, turn that into a site, and start sharing that site with my users literally within minutes. So that gives another advantage. Okay, so I think I spent enough time talking about what OverDRIVE is. It's probably a good time to start to show you, and I'll show you the demonstration. And as I said before, I'm showing you two things. I'm showing you the current version and how we create sites and what we do with those sites. But also I'm going to show you a feature which is being launched in the next week or so, called Page Builder, which is a completely different way for us to create sites. So I'll just share out of the presentation. And over here in Drive, you may recognize this screen. I've got this site which is being created. And so I've got a list of demonstration sites here. This is the one that I'm interested in using, this intranet demonstration. And I see here I've got a main folder here called intranet. I've got some child folders here. Some of these child folders have got some content already created within here. This is a fairly typical scenario. I've got a structure either within my drive or within a team drive, shared drive, sorry, and I want to share that information with some users. And I could, if it was all document-based information, I could just share this drive folder. But actually, OverDRIVE gives me an opportunity to do something much more intelligent, much more effective for my users, which is create a site as a wraparound for this content and then share that appropriately. And it gives it a nicer environment for the users to exist in. How do I do that? Very simply, all I do is come up here to this top level folder and I right click on there, and obviously I've authorized OverDRIVE, so I've got this option here to open with OverDRIVE. And that opens up in a new tab. The first thing that happens is that I'm asked to sign into the site effectively. So this authenticates me. At the moment, I'm using just Google, but I can also sign in with Microsoft or LinkedIn or Facebook or other even just normal email addresses, email and password. In this case, I'll just sign in with Google. And what OverDRIVE is doing now is looking at that drive structure, that folder structure within Drive. I just got rid of the tool, which you can use actually. I'll come back to that later. It looks into that drive folder structure and says, okay, what are the folders there and how do I turn that into a site? And effectively a folder within OverDrive becomes a menu item within OverDrive. So I can see here, if I go back to Drive, I've got my top level folders as company info, finance, HR, IT, etc. And those have been replicated here. And it's built in the background, all those child folders as well. So it's looked into Drive, found the information, pulled the information across into this site. Effectively, that's the site that's created, and I'm ready to roll with that, and I'm ready to share with my users. Now, I might want to spend some time dealing with the branding, the colors, the layout, the content, etc., etc. But essentially, if it was a very quick site that I wanted to create for a short-term purpose, that's my OverDrive site created already. It's not particularly interesting, and I don't like the color scheme. So what I'm going to show you now is I've taken that information, that idea forward, and basically spent a little bit of time doing the site design, if you like. So I've made it full width. I've changed the color scheme. I've added some different designs on the pages. This is our dashboard view, for instance, where I've got some live feeds coming in from Twitter. I've got a slide, a Google slide deck embedded, which happens to be this presentation. I could also have a YouTube video playing, etc. Now that's very easy for me to be able to create this from the dashboard. If I want to present some information to users, this might not be the right type of page to do that. So what I'll show you some other ways in which we can present information to the users and how we can see that and how we can manage that. So I'll give you some examples. One of the folders back in Drive was a fairly document-heavy folder, which was company reports. So a list of lots of documents of lots of different types. And I can create an environment where I can share this document like this, those documents like in this format. So I can do things like I can change the way that that is displayed. So I'll go over to details view. I can change to larger icons or smaller icons, etc. I can also click through and I can view the document. This happens to be a PDF, so it's in a frame. It's an accurate representation of the document rather than a Google document, which might be embedded onto the page itself. And I can scroll through from those documents from one document to another. Okay, that might be interesting to me. That might help me. And again, I think it's a nicer environment than natively within Drive. I can also filter this list. So if I put children into the filter box, notice that I'm looking for anything that's in the title of any type of document, but it's also looking inside documents, so Google Documents, PDFs, etc., to find any essentially keywords that I'm searching here in the filter box. That goes directly in and lists that that list of documents that match that criteria. And I can take that to the next stage if I want to. I can search by particular groups. I can search by file types, who owns it, etc., etc. So I've got plenty of options in terms of how I find the information within this folder. Probably a good point at this time to mention I've got a site search as well. So I can look for any documents across the whole site. And again, I'm looking for titles of documents are inside the document content as well. And I can see that information and click straight through. So if you've got a site with lots of information, that can be a really quick way to find that, that data and be able to look for it, etc. A couple of other things I can do on this screen. I've got this plus button here, which is quite interesting. So this allows me to take what's in Drive, pull that into OverDrive to create the site, but then I want to add some information to it, some assets, some documents, etc. And I can either do that by uploading from a local drive. I can do this what's called link files and folders. So I've got some documents elsewhere within Drive, and what I want to do is bring them into this section here. So that's quite nice, and that will help. But also, I've got this option here to create new files and folders. Now, anybody who's created lots of files and folders at a time within Google Drive will know actually it's quite difficult to do. So what I can do here, I'll just quickly show you this. So I'm creating a series of documents, creating a series of spreadsheets, and I'll also create some folders as well. So if I was trying to do this within Drive, it would take me quite some time. Actually, with OverDrive, it's a real breeze. I'm creating those files and those folders within OverDrive, and they're automatically synced back to Drive. So once that's completed, I'll show you that, and you can see that that bi-directional sync between OverDrive and Drive works a real treat. It just makes the whole thing much easier. So you can see I've got the folders have appeared here. I'll have the documents in here as well if I expanded this. And if I go back over to Drive, and it's company info, company reports. Once Drive has caught up, you'll be able to see those, and it will show the documents and the folders which have been created. Let me just give that a quick refresh just to prove the point. Now you notice that I'm using my drive as the source of information in here. In fact, that hasn't come through yet. That's a complete fail. So that will take a few minutes to come through. I might come back to that later. Back to that point. So I was using my drive to hold the folders and documents. I could also use shared drive if I wanted to. So here, if I had a folder structure set up within shared drives, I can use that as well. So back to my demonstration site. So this is kind of a way to view documents in a folder. Now, I could do so much more than that. One of the things that I want to show you is how we take information and how we display that information on the page. One of the things that we could do is actually take a document. Instead of displaying it within a folder structure, I rip the contents out of the document and display it directly on the page. And I can do something like this, which is add a pagination feature in here, which is really easy. So now, again, I'm just making it easy for users to understand and consume the data rather than relying on going into Drive, finding the document, open up the document in a new tab, forgetting that it's open and probably not reading it at the time when they needed to, then going back to it later and perhaps losing it. Here it is, dead and center. And you notice that I've got a unique URL for each page on the site. So I can just share this page with somebody and bring them directly into this page if I want to share this. And again, by the way, while I'm here, I have this ugly site name here, 30907. You can change that to be whatever you want it to be. So typically it's intranet.yourcompany.com or documentsyourcompany.com, whatever you want it to be. So that's documents. There are other things that we can do. It's a similar function with Google Sheets and Google Slides, exactly the same. You've seen that we can embed PDFs in there as well. So that works really well. But some of the other things that we can do, just to give you an idea, outside of documents, let's look at contacts, sharing contacts. It's always been difficult to share contacts within Google Drive. Well, actually, now it's really easy. So all I'm doing is looking at my contacts. I've created a group, sharing that group, and then I'm sharing that group of contacts on the OverDrive page. And I can do things like I can filter this just as we did before. I can click through to find more information, etc., etc. And I can make these hot linkable to open up mail, etc., if I wanted to. So contacts is very good. We've shown you documents, document embedding. Have a look at a calendar. So again, I'm taking my Google calendars, and there's multiple calendars on a page, pulling that through into this this page here, and then displaying them appropriately for my users. And I'm also inheriting the sharing rights to my calendars. So if I can see the calendar within Drive, then I can see it within OverDrive, which is very useful. Other things I can do, I can obviously share photos, hold photos on here. I can have Google Forms embedded on here for anything that I want to collect information. I can embed the forms. We've also got more advanced features like workflow. So this is a purchase requisition workflow, really simple. You see that I've got a list of existing requests and some details about them and the status of where we are with that request. And the whole process is managed through OverDRIVE. So I can create a request, send it to the appropriate approvers, they can review, reset the status, and I can see that notifications are also handled on the site via OverDRIVE. So I'm not, if you think about this now, I'm not just taking a Google Drive folder and sharing that list of documents with a particular user. Whether they can use Drive or not can be sometimes difficult. What I'm doing, I'm creating a space around that content, and I'm pulling in calendars, and I'm pulling in contacts and workflow, and we've got a mobile forms solution about to launch. We have got ability to bring in external data. So you've got a smart sheet that you want to embed, we can do that. YouTube videos, Twitter feeds, as you've seen. We've also got the ability to embed on any site, any website onto a page, which means that you've got a particular site that you want to use and share with your users. You can bring that into the site and embed that onto a page, which makes it very, very easy. So OverDRIVE is becoming a central source of information, not just I've got a list of documents in Drive and I'm sharing that Drive. I'm sharing the information. And obviously it's completely brandable to your own desires. We've got our logo here, but you can do whatever you want to do with that. So that's kind of the site. We'll talk about a little bit later about how you can continue your investigation and what else you can do, and talk to you about the demonstration sites, etc., etc. I just want to give you a quick overview of what we're calling Page Builder. So I've gone back to a fairly bland design, if you just forgive me here. But for those of you who've seen OverDRIVE, I've used OverDRIVE in the past, you'll know that setting up the site and creating the page has been a little bit awkward, and it's been limited in the fact that I can only have one page type on each page. So I'm displaying a folder, or I'm displaying a calendar, or I'm displaying a Twitter feed. I'm not doing multiple sources of information. Well, all of that's changed with Page Builder. So I'll come up here to the edit page, and let's say that I'm interested in, let's have an image box on here. So I just drag that across, I drag it to the appropriate size if I want to, and I can then configure this image box so it looks in Google Drive for a suitable image. Heck knows what's going to come through. There we are. I think that's fairly bland. That can go there. That's very good. And then let's say that actually I want a Google document below this, and I want that to be full width. And again, you get the principle. So I'm just dragging and dropping the information in here and then configuring appropriately. So now it's going to look for a Google document that's going to be appropriate to embed. And it's looking either in this current site, or it's looking within my Google Drive, so I can pull it in from other locations. There we go. And I can decide how that's viewed, etc., etc. And then all I need to do is click Save Changes, and there we go, and that's done. So yes, I'm going to spend more time creating the page and make sure the size of the boxes is right, but essentially it gives me so much more flexibility in terms of what I see on the site and how I'm creating that site. And so we're really excited about the change and the introduction of Page Builder, because we think it changes everything regarding OverDRIVE. Still, the core principles exist. I'm taking my data, wherever that exists, I'm pulling it into an environment that I've got much more control over, and I'm pulling information in from separate locations to share with my audience as appropriate. So it's all good, all good. So let me go back to the presentation. A couple of things that I will finish off on, because we are running short of time. So I wanted to show you some existing customers and what they're using it for. There are some common themes. So staff intranet, staff portals, parent portals, student portals. Those are very, very popular themes for OverDRIVE. And that's because I've got lots of information that I want to share. And that information can typically be held in lots of different locations. And bringing it all together on one site and just giving an easy place and signposting my users to find that information. So that's very popular. Also, the ability to share information outside my domain is really interesting. So client portals or vendor portals, any partner portals as well. So again, I've got my information, sits within Drive and Calendar and other places, and I'm sharing that information with a group of users outside my domain. And when I'm sharing outside my domain, I'm either using a private site, so they sign into that site, so that information is still secure, or I've got the ability to create public sites where anybody can access the information. That has a drastic reduction in licensing costs, but it means that everybody can see the information, so it's no longer private. So that works really well in certain circumstances. But you can see we work across industries. We've got everything from non-profit, construction, financial services, certainly education, business services. All types of industries are covered within the OverDRIVE client base. And we can provide information on more of these if you need to. So in terms of next steps, a couple of things that you can do. And we'll send you links to all this information after the event. So first of all, you can create your own trial site. In fact, you can create as many as you wish. So that allows you to kind of get a feel of what OverDRIVE can do. And if you remember when I first started that new site, the tour popped up. And that's quite a good way for you to see what OverDRIVE can do. It goes into more detail about the different page types. So certainly do that. We'll also send you links to our public demonstration sites. So these are in education and business, where we've spent some time creating a site, got some dummy information in there, and you can see that information if you visit the sites. So we'll send you the link. And if you've got any specific questions that you need answering, then we can arrange a one-to-one consultation, either with ourselves or with one of our partners, depending on where you're based in the world and what's appropriate. So we're happy to help in any way that you wish. I don't think that, there are any questions, which is good. So either means I've explained everything, or we're going to get a flood of emails afterwards when we send the recording. But that's great. So thanks everybody for attending. It's been really good to take you through that. I'd encourage you just to start the trial yourself. Have a look at the site, see how it goes, how it works, and try and relate that to what you're trying to do. And then if you do have any questions, then please just come back to us and we'll happily help. Okay, thank you very much.